Today's class, we're going to flip between using the resistance band and the weights. So if you're going on holiday, if you're away from home for whatever reason, and you don't want to lose your momentum with your strength work, then a couple of resistance bands are so cheap and cheerful to buy, easy to pack, so transportable, and it's amazing just how much we can substitute using them. So that's what today is all about, okay? And as I said, if you've only got one, when you see them, I would grab a few more because, as I say, they're only cheap. Get different resistances, and then you know what you're going to work with. Now, I've got a bit of a grumpy shoulder at the moment, so I'm going to go with light weights and a very stretchy band. I'm dipping in and out a little bit, so don't be distracted by that. I will encourage you to go heavier where appropriate. Let's get warmed up using the band. Oh, and also mini loop and Fitband. But if you haven't got either of these, I will be showing you how to substitute as we go along. Again, cheap as chips. These Fitband Decathlon, they're about a £5 if that. Same with the mini loops, but don't feel obliged to buy them if you haven't got them. I'll show you how to substitute. All right, let's get warmed up using the band. Now, I'm wearing trainers because whenever we do weights work, I would encourage you to wear something on your feet. If you are barefoot, that's totally up to you. So just holding the band, hands slightly wider than hip width, feet parallel. Just start by bringing your arms up to the ceiling, open through the chest and back down. And again, lifting up. So whatever you're going to be working with, if you're using the weights only or what have you, then still think about mobilizing like so. You can combine the band warm up with your weights work. Let's just do 4 more like this. And what I'm going to do as we go along is flip between the band and the weights. And you may choose to stay just with the weights. You may choose to work just with the band, or you may choose to do half and half as well. And that's what today's all about. Now, this next time, bring your arms up to the ceiling and let's come up and over into the side bend. Reach right the way over, back to the center and over. Excuse me, I've just lost something. Don't go away. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going. Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. And back to the center. Sorry about that. And over, come back to your center and over. Now back to the center, and we're going to combine that forward reach this time. So come over to side 1 and just bring your upper arm out in front of you. Don't rotate through the body, just bring your arm forward, bring your arm back and return center. Let's go to side 2. Reach over, bring your arm forward just to feel that stretch across the upper shoulder there. Back to the center and return. Let's do that one again. Over to side 1. Bring your arm forward out in front. Back to the center and return and over side 2. And again, bring your arm out in front. Back to the center and come back up. And again, just lower and lift. And this time, see if you can go a little bit further. Pull on the band as much as you need. And I would say for the warm-ups and the mobility, stay with as much stretchier band. If you've got a stronger band for your resistance work, great. That's, I'd certainly encourage that. But for your warm-up work, a little bit stretchier. So let's see if we can start to take it maybe a little bit further, perhaps up and over behind your shoulders. That may not suit you. Just play around with that one. But really getting a lovely big rotation through the shoulder joint and over. You know the basics here. So making sure that you don't arch your back, taking your arms away, not letting your back change shape as you lift and lower. Let's just do 3 more. Right up and over if your shoulders allow it. And if they don't, then reduce how far you travel. A couple more here. Up and over. Fabulous. Let's just do that one last time. Great. And come back. Oh, and relax. Fabulous. Just drop the band for a moment and we're just going to warm up through the lower body. Let your arms hang, high march, just lifting one knee and then the opposite. Now, again, you know this one. As you lift your knee, watch you're not leaning back. Try and get your knee, if you can, above your hip line. Now, if you need a little bit of balance, you can bring your arms out in front of you. You can bring your arms to your sides if you need to, whatever helps you. but think about balancing from your center. Let's go for 10, 9, 8. Balance is so important. I like to bring balance into pretty much every class that we do, something every day that challenges our upright stability. Let's do 3 and 2. Well done. And 1. Both feet to the floor, soft through those knees, little nod of your chin. And let's just do a couple of roll downs, mobilize through the spine. And roll back up. And again. Great work. And roll back up. And we're just going to do some very gentle squats. So, bar stool height only. Arms out in front, take a little seat. And come back up just to a bar stool. And again. And come back up. So just hinge through the hip, fold through the knee. Now let's start to head a little lower towards a kitchen chair if that suits you. If it doesn't, stay with that bar stool height. Okay, otherwise starting to sit a little lower towards that kitchen chair. And again, but remember you've got the option of staying in a smaller movement just to that bar stool if that's better for you. Let's just do 3. Great work. And again. Just one more here. And come back up. And I want you now to keep your legs straight. And we're going to go into our weight list, as in we're not carrying any weight, deadlift. Now, hinge those hips right back, stick your bottom out, and bring your arms out in front of you. Your knees shouldn't go into a big bend. They soften, but they don't fully bend. And then come back up. So note the difference, because there's been a little bit of confusion over this. Here is the squat. Here is the deadlift. Okay? So your knees soften, but you don't go into a big knee bend. So let's practice that one. Push your bum back towards the wall behind you. So your bum is right out behind your heels. Then lower your hands down. Now, if you can only get to your knees before you have to bend them, don't go any further. I've got very good flexibility in my hamstrings. I can get much lower, but I couldn't initially. So you might just get to your knees and not go any further. That's fine. And then come back up. But I want to make sure that we're really clear on this action because we're going to be doing some deadlifts. And if we don't get the action correct, we're not hitting the right target. We're not targeting the right muscle group, which in this case is our hamstrings. So perhaps you'll go as far as your knees and you won't go any further. And then you'll drive those hips back up. And then gradually, as you get bigger range through the hamstrings, so you can increase it. Okay? Let's just do 2 or 3 more here. So we're focusing very much into the backs of the thighs, strong through that center. So you start by pushing your hips right out behind you. Knees soften, but they don't go into a big bend. And then drive your hips back up. And at the top, give your bum a little squeeze. Let's do that just one more time. And come back up. And with all these exercises, if there's anything that you're not sure about that doesn't feel right, you just don't understand it, give me a shout. I'm always happy to go through it with you. Okay, we can do a little quick FaceTime, can't we? All right, so exercise number 1, side raise. Let me just show you the 2 options. Option 1, standing on the band. And we're going to go for alternates, okay, like so. So I'm going to be a little bit careful on this side because this shoulder's really bothering me at the moment. So I'm going to just dip in and out a bit. Option to work like so. Now, if you've got a very strong band or if for any reason it's shorter or what have you, what you can do is just work on that one side and then obviously swap it over to the other side. Or needless to say, you stand on it and you've got the option of both sides. Okay, we're aiming for 10 to 12 repetitions. Otherwise, here you are. Exactly the same thing. 10 to 12 repetitions. If you're going for double side, then obviously you'll finish a little quicker. So get started with whichever option you choose. And I'm going to flip between the 2. So here you are, you're on holiday, you don't want to let your weights work go, your strength work go, throw a band in the bag, and here you are, you've got 10 minutes at lunchtime coming out of the heat. Good opportunity to do something different, get away from the sunshine. So you're going to go into your strength work. So just side to side, your side raise. Here's option 1. You choose the resistance here. You make the band shorter. You work with a stronger band. That's up to you. And then option 2, exactly the same thing. But you're doing it with your weights. Exactly the same thing. Good. Let's just do a couple more on each side. I'm afraid I wasn't counting, so I'm hoping that you were. Okay. And relax. All right, just roll out your shoulders. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing, this time with a front raise. And again, you've got the option of alternate or double. So just simply bringing one arm straight out in front of you and lower, second side. Or you could do single, single, double. That's one that I quite like to do. And lift both and recover. So perhaps single one, single two, and double. Alternatively, here you go. Stand on your band. Make sure you've got a good strong hold on it. And single one, single two, and double. So you're getting exactly the same exercise, but just don't have to pack your weights and take them away with you. And again, going for your double. I'm going to work without the band at the moment, if that's all right with you. So again, single one, single two. Stay with singles if you prefer, or stay with doubles. So this is where you make it totally all about you. I'm giving you some ideas here, and then we can do an actual program together in another recording. Great work. So again, you're aiming between 10 to 12 repetitions. So when you get to number 12, if you know that you've got lots left in the tank, that's when you know you could go for a bigger weight, heavier weight, stronger resistance band, okay? Have a breather and roll out your shoulders. Fabulous work, well done. So we can, you can get a much stronger band with the side raise or the front raise or whatever. Simply hold it much shorter. You've got a greater resistance there. Okay, so if it's too stretchy, you're not really feeling it enough, take up a little bit more of the band and give yourself more resistance that way, okay, or forward or what have you. Now, next exercise, I've had to adapt it slightly. Shoulder press with the weights, or you're holding the band above your head and you're going to pull it apart and return. Now, this is one where I'd suggest you stand in front of a mirror to make sure you're not only working on one side. It's quite easy to do that. So, option with the band, pull your hands apart and recover. With the weights, hands are palms facing forward, pushing up, pulling down. So it's not exactly the same, but it's certainly targeting the same muscle groups. So again, you could go single, single, double. You could say with singles. You could stay just with doubles. That one's up to you. Breathe out to push away. Breathe in to pull down. Okay, you could choose to do both. You could do a set with the band and then you could do a set with the weight. So this is where, as I say, you get to play around. If the band's not strong enough, double it over. That's another way to give yourself more resistance. Pull away and recover. Now, as you're working with your arms above you, you know the drill here. Keep those ribs drawn down and in. Keep those abdominals switched on. 10, 12 repetitions. By the time you get to 12, you really feel you need to put the weights down, you need to put the band down and recover, which is what we're going to do. So we're just whizzing through this, just having a bit of an idea here. And what you might do is just scribble down some of your preferred ones or whatever. And then, as I say, I can make a bit more of a program further down the line. But today's really about just familiarizing ourselves with how we can flip between the two and replicate the exercises with the band. Okay, so we're going to go into our bent over row. Let me remind you of this one with the weights. So now we're getting a bit more smaller groups. So far, bigger muscle groups. Now we're getting triceps. So bent over, okay, stick your bottom out, arms out in front of you, and elbows stay narrow. You could go single, single, double. You could stay with alternates. You could stay at doubles. So this is the one where your elbows are narrow. Just brush your elbows up past your ribs and reach down. Now, if you're using your band, you can do exactly the same thing by pulling your elbows up like so and down. There you go. And again, you will adapt the resistance. So what I'd say is if the band is a bit too stretchy, what you can do is just take up a little bit of the length by taking your feet a bit wider, or obviously holding it lower down so you get that same resistance. So if you know that you're going to be having to work with a band for a while, play around with it in comparison to the weights so that you can match the challenge of the weights with the challenge of the band. So bring your hand right down towards your feet on the band if you need to, and then as you pull up, there's your resistance. If you're not feeling it enough, make the band shorter. You could even work with 2 bands if you prefer to, so you really get that challenge. Breathing out as you pull your elbows up and breathing in as you lower. Well done. Chest high, eye line. So try not to look at the floor, look ahead of you. You're looking about 6 feet in front of the end of your mat. That's where your eye line wants to be, okay? Hips just slightly back so that you're just folded through the hips. Elbows are narrow, and again, you've got the option of single, single, double, or staying with the doubles, or staying with a single alternates. And again, that's where you will play around with it. Fabulous. Okay, let's just have a bit of a recovery there. So we're going to give the upper body a bit of a recovery and a bit of a stretch, and then we're going to have some lower body focus. Let's give the triceps a stretch. One hand, drop your hand between your shoulder blades and pull your elbow back. Just feel that stretch there through the back of the upper arm. Well done. And then swap it over. Great. I love these bands. They're so, well, obviously very transportable, and there's so much that we can recreate, both with our strength work, but also with the studio equipment. If you use reformer, etc., there's a lot that we can do there to mimic it. Okay, so just a few shoulder rolls, and we're going to have some lower body focus. So we're going to start with our deadlifts. So deadlifts, this is where you're going to go super heavy. The lower body is excuse me, the lower body much stronger than the upper body, and the weights are closer to you. Sorry, I should have said that at the start. I do apologize. I think most of you are familiar with this, but when your arms are going further away from you, you're thinking more about your medium weights, because obviously here you can hold much heavier than here. But again, remember, that's a guideline of 12. By 12, you are desperate to put the weight down. And if you don't feel like that, that's when you can think about going heavier. Now here, I'd be going for my super heavy weights. Okay, I've just mentioned that today I've chosen to work with light weights because of this silly old shoulder of mine. But otherwise, I'd be going for the heaviest weights I've got. Let me remind you of the deadlift. So we did the prep earlier on. Hips go back. The weights go down as though you're going to slide them down the front of your shins. You may get as far as your knees and not go any further, and then you drive your hips back up. Okay, you may get further and you may bring the weights down towards the top of your laces and then drive back up. But I want you to go really heavy with your weights. Alternatively, you're on your band. Now, for your band, you need to hold right down towards your feet to get a really good, what's the word I'm looking for? Comparison with your weights. But stick your bum right out behind you, and then you're sort of working in reverse. You're going to pull up against the band, and then as you lower down, push your hips back, and then pull up against the band, squeeze those abs, and as you lower down, you're pushing your hips back so your knees are soft. You're not letting them go into a big bend. Pulling up and back down. Well done. Breathe out as you pull against the weight. Breathe in as you lower. So your focus is slightly changed, because obviously the pull is on the way down with the weights, and then we can come all the way back up. We're less likely to fully straighten with the band, although you have got that option if you have a long enough band. But again, making sure that you've got enough resistance, you've got enough challenge. Breathing out as you restack, stand tall, and breathing in on the way down. And again, breathing out as you come back up, and just have a breather there. Well done. Okay, so that's really getting strength into the back of the thighs. Now, the hamstring's so important. We do so much work on the fronts of the thighs, predominantly walking upstairs, very much fronts of the thighs, projecting our weight forward, which is why lots of falls, it's so common, falls happen going downstairs, going downhill, because typically we're not as strong through this posterior chain, okay, which is why it's important that we focus on that gluteal work, hamstring work, which we've just done. So exercises like that is going to help with our balance, with our control, be less likely to tip forward and lose our balance because we've got the strength through what's called this chain here, this posterior chain of muscles. Now, next one, weighted squats. And again, you will go heavy. Let me just give you two options here because it's slightly different, this one. So you've got your heavy weights onto your shoulders. Now, this is the one where you take a seat either on your bar stool or your kitchen chair. Weights to the shoulders if that isn't comfortable. Weights in towards your chest if you're happier with that. And you're going to take a seat and then drive up. The heavier the weight that you're pushing into, the bigger the challenge, needless to say. Take a seat and drive back up, okay? So if you haven't got your weights and you're using your band, you're going to come down onto the floor and you're going to put your feet into the band. It stays on the floor. Pull your knees right up into your chest and then push away and come in. So do you see it's exactly the same action, all right, as the squat. So again, if you're being a little bit cautious, if you've got a knee issue, you don't want that body weight work, then this is still hitting those quads in just the same way. So again, I'd say have a play. We're going to go back through these, by the way. So if you haven't had a chance to flip from one to the other, we will revisit them and then you can have a go at doing it the other way around. So what I would say with these ones, when you're lying on your back, please be careful that you don't let your back arch. So as you push your legs away, you've really got to keep that focus, that abdominal focus, so that as your legs go away from you, your back stays quiet. You don't allow your back to go into an arch. Breathing out to push your legs away, breathing in to come back down, or you have your weighted squat. Now, if your weights are here, you're sticking your bottom right out behind you, hips right out behind your heels, and drive back up. Okay, so imagine there's a very low chair behind you. Try to sit down onto it and drive yourself back up. Okay, fantastic. Good, good, good. So we've got one more exercise to go through this round, and then we're going to just go back through them just as a recap so that you can try, if you haven't used one option, you can flip around. So where are we? Chest opener. So I would say for this one, your mediums, possibly your lights. You can do this standing like so, or you could come down onto the floor. Now we're going to come down onto the floor, but if you wanted more challenge, you could be up, you could be standing like so. Let me just show you where we're going with this one. Same as like down onto the mat. Okay, so into your chest opener like so. Alternatively, here's your band. Pulling your hands apart and back in. So choose whether you want to be standing or lying. Now, if you're lying down, needless to say, you're much more stable. So if you're a little less familiar with this, or you just simply want to take a slightly less challenging route, then lying down, you're far more stable. You don't have to think about balance. Also, you're not having quite as much intensity holding the weight out in front of you, but otherwise kneeling or standing is your option. Still going for that 10 to 12 repetition. Okay, whatever level you're working at, always thinking about your spine staying completely still, so you're not rocking forward and backward. Fantastic. Okay, have a breather, roll it out, and we're just going to whiz back through those ones before we then go into some more work, all right? Just as a way to recap, and then as I said, if you haven't used the band, you only use the weights, flip it around, vice versa. So let's go back to our side raise. So standing, I'm going to start with the band. I'm then going to go over to my weights, all right? So round two, we're still aiming for 10 to 12 repetitions. Single, single, double, stay with singles, stay with doubles, whatever works for you. Okay, into your side raise. So if you haven't had a go with one option, then I would say have a go now. Just become familiar with it so that you understand fully how to substitute if and as and when you need to. And then there's no excuse. Don't tell me you're going off on some amazing holiday and you won't be able to train, because I'll be saying, excuse me, could you look at video library number blah de blah de blah? I think you'll find you jolly well can. There we go. Okay, so here's your option. Of course, alternatively, like so. So there's what keeps it simple. I'm trying to be as creative as I can. Got a few more ideas. So there's definitely room for another couple of classes on how we can substitute. Let's take this into our front raise. So just have a breather. All right. And then you're ready to take the weight out in front and lower. Now, when you're doing your program, you're aiming to do 3 rounds. So you probably do your side raises, have a rest for half a minute or so, then do another round, rest half a minute or so, and then another round. That would be it pretty much. But here, we're just having a mishmash and a play around. So we're just going straight into it. So front raise, or obviously you're standing on your band, of course, taking up as much of the band as you need. So maybe I've got enough resistance. Hold the band lower down, and then you've got a greater challenge. When you're holding the band, watch that you're not wonky through your wrist. Keep your wrist long, don't let it flop. Okay, great work. From here, just have a breather, and again, put the weights down, roll out your shoulders, maybe some big circles perhaps, and then we're going to go into our shoulder press or our overhead pull. So if you're working with the band, you're pulling your hands apart and recover. Okay, so it's not exactly the same, but it's certainly good enough, I can assure you. Okay, alternatively, palms facing forward and you're pushing away. Super. And this again, this could be a way to progress. So maybe round 1, you do doubles. Maybe round 2, you do single, single, double. And maybe round 3, you do singles. Okay, but when you're building strength, you're aiming to really, realistically 3 rounds of each, which you've come across in some of my classes before now in my strength work. Great. Otherwise, so you're pushing from the shoulder, or of course, here we are, and we're pulling apart and returning like so. Okay, superb. Oh, roll it out. Good. Shoulder's going to be tired by the end of this, that's for sure. Okay, let's go into our rowing. So with the band, hand right down by your feet. Now watch here, you're not bent over. Well, you are bent over, but you shouldn't be looking down at the floor. You're here, all right? You're here as if you're about to pick up your wheelbarrow and you need to look where you're going. That's where I want you to be. And as you bend your elbows, you're literally lifting up the handles of a very heavy wheelbarrow and then putting it back down. So you need to look where you're going, okay? I don't know why, but you do. You need to look where you're going. So there you are. You're going to pick up the handles of a really heavy wheelbarrow and then back down, and obviously substitute with your weights. So your upper body doesn't move up and down. You're just pulling your elbows. Don't move your upper body. You're just pulling your elbows up and back down. There you go. Great work. Otherwise, you're holding the weights likewise. So just imagine, okay, maybe you do need to bend over to pick up your wheelbarrow. You know what I mean. I'm doing my best here. Okay, let's just do a couple more. Keep those abs connected. Keep that belly button pulled right into your backbone and relax. Wonderful. Wonderful. So rolling out your shoulders, and we're going to go into our deadlift. This is where we're hitting the backs of the thighs. So let's start with the weights. If you're working with weights, you're going as heavy as you can. Working with the band, you want to really switch up the resistance. Use 2 bands if you've got them. Okay, so you're pushing your hips right out behind you, slightly softening through those knees. Watch you don't arch your back into a gorilla pose, and then driving back through, stand tall, give those glutes a squeeze. Looking about 6 foot forward in front of the end of your mat. So I want you to really feel the backs of the thighs. Hamstrings are really working here. So as I said, you could double it over because this is where you want to go really strong. Lower body much, much stronger than the upper body. So you could double it over and pull up, and then hinge back down, holding right down towards your feet, and then pull up and control the descent. So you really can mimic the true deadlift, coming all the way up if you've got the strength, if the band allows, and then back down. But remember, you're driving your hips out behind you and squeeze at the top. Well done. Great work. Okay, so just wrapping that one up. Then we're going to go into our weighted squat or our double leg press. Okay, so if you're using your weights either onto your shoulder or into your chest. Now this is where you take a seat on a chair, on a low chair, remember. Now sit right down. If you can, get your hips down in front of you, in line with your knees, and then push it back up. So sitting right the way down, driving it back up. And again, with the weights onto your shoulders or in front of you. If you're holding the weight in your chest, just watch it doesn't tip you forward. This is, again, heavy weight. Alternatively, for this one, strong band again. And this is mimicking the leg press in the gym. Some of you might have seen this, lying on your back, and you've got a big metal plate, and you push your feet against the plate and back down. So pushing out and away and recover. And again, of course, adapting the band to suit you. Now, if this is too intense, you could put one foot on the floor and you could do a single leg press. The beauty of that, one leg squat, single leg press. So this is another option here, sort of 10 to 12 on one side, and then swap it over. But do make sure that you work both sides the same, okay? So perhaps, I know I'm going to have a couple of my friends rehabbing knee issues. So that could be a good way to really work, to make sure, if you're going on a single leg, to make sure that the strong side doesn't dominate and do all the work. So you can then, when you're ready to, work that weaker side and give it its own focus and challenge. Okay, so that is an option I didn't mention in round one. Sorry about that. Great work. Okay, so from here, we're going into our chest opener. You're either standing or kneeling, or I'm going to come down onto the floor using the weights, arms above you, palms facing in. Open your arms out wide and close back in. There's option one, or of course, exactly the same thing. Taking your hands apart and return. Do you know what? I said palms facing each other. I'm going to change that. I'm sorry. I'm going to say palms facing your knees. Okay, if you're lying on your back, and then it's exactly the same with the band. Sorry about that. Palms facing your knees so that your arms are in the same position. Otherwise, same thing, kneeling or standing, pulling your arms apart and recover. Fantastic. So if you're working standing or kneeling, your arms are straight, open and close. Great work. Okay, superb. Superb. Let's just do a couple more here. Good, good, good. Shoulders stay down. Open and close. And relax. Fabulous. Some recovery there. Okay, let's move away from the upper body. Let's come into some lower body focus. So this is where you're going to use your mini loop or your band as an option against the weight. If you haven't got those, what you can do is get your resistance band and just tie it into a knot, okay? So you make a loop. Or I use a freezer clip so that they don't get jammed, okay? Because sometimes once they're knotted, if you've worked really hard and pulled the knot tight, you can't undo it. So I generally use a freezer clip to clamp it shut, okay? And just make a loop like so with your resistance band. So again, simple as can be. Otherwise, mini loop or fit band, depending on how much challenge you want. The fit band is much stronger. That's the fabric one. Mini loop is a resistance band. It's just looped resistance band. The fit band is the fabric one. It's a lot stronger and it's got grip. So if you're going to work with the band, we're going to our clam. So we're going to work through the outer hip into the glutes and just open and close like so. So you're pushing against the resistance of the band. I'm not going to take the band off just to save time, but alternatively, you've got your weight and you're pushing into the weight. Again, you can afford to go heavier here. So I'm not saying you do both. I'm just saying I'm saving time by not taking the band off. So you're either pushing into the band or pushing into the weight. Okay, let's stay with that 10 to 12. And again, round 1 is the introduction. Round 2, it's starting to get a little bit spicy. And round 3, oh my goodness me, you've just about used everything in the tank. Okay, well done. Try not to stop at the bottom. With all these exercises, if you pause, always pause under load, in which case you pause at the top, not at the bottom. Let's go on to our second side. Now I'm going to show you an alternative position here because, as I said, I'm being a little bit careful with my shoulder. So I'm going to choose here to come down and bring my head onto the floor. So again, obviously, we've got that option of working just against the band. Or you could take the band away. And then obviously, of course, you're working on the weight, holding the weight against your upper leg and pushing up and into it, open and close, keeping your hips in line, keeping that strong connection through your center, looking to do 10, 12 repetitions here. So we did our quads, we did the fronts of the thighs, we did our squats and our double leg press, we did our deadlift, we did the backs of the thighs. Now we're really getting into the glute outer hip area. Good. Wonderful. And have a breather come up and out of that one. All right. Great work, everybody. So you might just want to have a little stretch through your hips. I don't think we're going to have time to go through this second set again, but let's see how we get on. I've got a couple more exercises that I want us to get through. All right. So roll up. We use the weights to help us with the roll up. Let me just remind you of this one. So I would say heavy weight into the chest, knees slightly bent. We're going to roll down. If you can't go, if you know getting back up is a challenge, don't go all the way to the floor and then push the weights away from you as you come up. Option 1, option 2, keep them into your chest. So rolling down, if you're happy to go to the floor, all well and good. And then as you roll up, push the weights away, and the weight will counterbalance the weight of you on the floor to get you back up. Alternatively, double, quadruple the band over, and you're going to pull on the band. You're going to curl down and really pull against the band as you roll up. And what it does is it switches on this upper chain, so we get the support to get us back up off the floor. So we're rolling down through a rounded spine. And then as we roll up, pulling against that band to get us back up. So remember, you've got the option of not going all the way down. If you know that that's going to be tricky for you, just part way and then roll back up. Alternatively, right the way to the floor. Don't take your arms overhead, just take them to the ceiling if you're holding the band. Keep the weights into your chest if you're holding the weights. And then roll back up and pull against the band. Let's do a couple more here. Well done. Rolling down, really pulling against the band or holding the weight into your chest. And then again, pushing the weight away as you come back up if that's what you're working with. Pulling against the band if that's what you're working with. And when you finish this next one, just bring yourself into a rounded spine just to release it off. Well done. Great. Okay, so we have got biceps and triceps and some back extension. So just to keep everything balanced and to give you as much choice as possible, you're going to come over onto your front. Light weights for this one, definitely not heavy, maybe mediums, but probably light. Let me show you the option with the weights first. Your arms are long, arms are straight, hands are palms facing up. Lift your head, lift your chest. Arms stay straight as you lift and then lower. So you're really hitting the triceps, getting into a little bit into your lats and your traps. Okay, breathing out as you lift, keeping your arms straight. breathing in as you lower. So that's how you're working with the weights. If you're working with the band, you're going to double or quadruple the band over, hold it between your hands behind you, pull against the band as you lift. It's a slight deviation from where you're working, but the focus, the main focus is the same: back strength, getting that chest lift, opening through the chest. It's a tough one, whichever option you go for. Don't go too heavy with the weight. If you're working with the band, try to pull your hands apart. Make sure that your hands are close together to start with, so they're inside your hips. You haven't got your arms wider than your hips. And as you lift your head and chest, pull against the band. Try not to clench your bum if you can help it. Make your back muscles work. Breathe out as you lift. Breathe in as you lower. Superb. Great work. Remember, arms stay straight. They're going to do their best to bend. You're going to resist that. You're going to keep your arms straight and recover. Fabulous. So from here, bring yourself into 4-point kneeling. Come into a rounded spine just to recover. Just tuck your chin in. Open up through the back of the body. Fantastic. So I'm sorry, we're running out of time. I've been rattling on too much. So we're not going to get to repeat the second round, but we'll certainly revisit it again. But we've got 2 more that I want to fit in. So just back up on your feet, please. So we started with large areas. We started with shoulders, back, chest. We went into slightly smaller areas. We did the thigh muscles, the thigh muscles, the glutes. We've just done some back extension because I always want to be as balanced as possible. I'm going to finish with isolation work, which are biceps and triceps. So biceps, standing on the band. And again, of course, it's up to you how much resistance you have. Arms by your sides, hands, palms facing forward and curling up and back down. Shoulders relaxed and down. So needless to say, you're going to substitute this with weights, of course. And again, you could go single, single, double. Keep it with doubles, up to you. So if you're working with weights, you're going to go heavier because the biceps are strong, right? If you're working with the band, you hold the band as far down as you need to replicate the resistance of your weight. So I want you to pick the weight up, practice with the weight, and then mimic it with the band so that you make sure that you're still working that same way. But if you can't move with the band, whoops, obviously take it a little bit longer so that you can get that flexion through the elbow. I had it a bit too tight. I couldn't get so far, all the way up. And control the descent. So the pull is just the same. Let's do a couple more here. Well done. And again. Superb. And relax. So we're just going through these last 2 a little quicker than I would have liked, and I apologize, but I just wanted to cover them, but I think these ones are more familiar to us. Triceps to finish with. So if you've got your weights, I'm just going to tilt my screen actually just a little bit up. Hold on, there we go. If you're working with your weights, arms are to the ceiling, and you're going to bring your weights down behind you. Look, elbows are narrow. They're not here, they're here. And drive it back up. You can hold one weight between both hands. You can have both weights as so. Elbows come down between the shoulder blades and then drive it straight back up. If you're working with the band, you're going to have one hand behind you, one hand up, okay? And the lower hand stays still and you pull the upper arm up and bend back down. Watch you don't touch your back, stay strong through your center. Bend back down. Pull your arm up and bend. Aim 10 to 12. And then, of course, so then swap it over. So obviously with the weights, you don't need to swap it over, needless to say, but with the band you do. So then opposite hand on top, other hand behind you. The lower hand doesn't move and the upper arm just pulls up and down. But again, elbow stays narrow. So watch it doesn't sneak away. So do try and find a handy mirror or a reflection in a window to just check your form. Also, watch you're not arching your back. You could sit for this one or kneel. So if you know that you tend to want to rock around, then make yourself smaller. come into a kneeling position, sit on a kitchen chair, and that will help to reduce the movement through the spine. Okay, fantastic. Oh, and have a breather. We're going to overrun by a couple of minutes, so I do apologise. And as I say, I'm sorry that we have gone through the second round a little bit quicker, but I'm just conscious of time. So let's finish as we started. Roll out your shoulders, but I hope that's given you lots of ideas. Anything there that doesn't make sense, or you just like a little more information on it, then as I say, feel free to get in touch with me. Let's go into some double arm circles right out and around. And I will do a couple of classes just using the band to make it as clear as possible as well. As we start heading towards holiday season, slowly. Okay, let's just do a couple more here. Superb, well done everyone. And relax. Now, you know, with our strength classes, I only do a pretty quick stretch recovery at the end. So I do always direct you over to the stretch collection in the library. Don't forget, there's a little drop down arrow, top left corner. Click on that. It'll open all the classes up. And then do please make sure that you do a full stretch. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed that. And you know where I am if you have any questions. Well done.